Hi, everybody, and welcome. We are here in the second of the learning blocks for Head Start Data Essentials. The real big deal here is we're going to talk about data workflows. Now, we've mentioned these before. They were in Head Start Data Basics. In fact, the visual you're going to see in this presentation is exactly the same one from Head Start Data Basics. But I want you to look at it differently because after this lesson, you're going to actually start looking through a whole series of examples. We have a lot of them. So you're going to see examples of real programs in the real world doing projects where they're using data to make their programs better. And I want you to think about what you're listening to and when you're hearing those stories told in the words of the people who actually did it in the real Head Start world. I want you to think about the data workflows and how, when they were going through the process of actually trying to do the things that they were doing, how that fits into this bigger picture of the data workflow. This is an important piece of the puzzle because when we talk about workflows, they can be abstract. They can be kind of up in the air. It's a theoretical thing. But you're going to hear a series of people talking about real stories of how they made real changes in their organization using how they approached data. One of the things that you'll see is data is one piece of the puzzle, but a lot of it is all the things that happen around the data, things that are described in the workflow. So this is a refresher designed to get you ready to go, but it's going to launch you into a series of lessons where we're really focusing on what does this really look like in the real world. So thinking as you're listening to the next several lessons, thinking about, okay, where was this? Was that data collection? Was that data coding? Was this data entry? And how thinking in that mindset can help you think about how to make changes in your program. So without further ado, data workflows and how those data workflows are a key part of Head Start. So the data workflow is a process by which data gets brought in from the real world and made useful for us, and then we actually use it. So there are basically 5 chunks of the data workflow that we normally talk about and that we are concerned with in this kind of context. The first is data collection. Now, data collection is gathering key information in the real world. The real world's infinitely complicated. We're going to grab the information that we want from it, and we're going to record that. We're going to basically say, I'm going to go get this information. I now have this information, and I'm now going to do something with it. So this is that initial stage where you're going to go out and do it. So this is being in a classroom and recording the activities of the students in their various lessons so that you can later on rate them on a kindergarten readiness scale, or you are working with the family to get the information from them about how they're doing and where the areas of strength and need are for that family. There's a second stage of this where you're going to transform that raw data that you've collected into categories. You're going to take that data and say, all right, well, I don't need to know absolutely everything about this family, but I do need to know, for instance, if you're looking at the PFCE framework and you're thinking about transitions, are they aware of where they're going to be next year? Is their child going to be with us in an early Head Start or Head Start program? Are they going to kindergarten? Are they moving to state preschool? Are they moving to transitional kindergarten? Lots of different places they can go. Does the parent even understand their options? So in the area of transitions, you're going to take that family screening data and you're going to code it as they're strong, they're in need. Depending on your system of rating, you're going to have that information that's there. You've transformed it into that particular coded example. Now, the next part of it is you got to go put that data somewhere. So you're recording data in software platforms for later use. Normally, most of the data you're collecting is going to go into program management software, Child Plus, myheadstart.com, or COPA are the biggest ones in Head Start, although there are other ones. Sometimes, though, you're recording it in Excel. It depends on what you're doing, but you're recording it somewhere. If it's school readiness data, it might be on a platform like My Teaching Strategies, but it's got to get in there somehow. So there's that data entry part. You've collected, you've sorted it into the categories you need to, and now you're entering it into the system where it will be stored. After you've stored it in there and after everyone else has also stored it in there, there's data analysis. This is finding stories in the data. For a teacher, it might be looking at my teaching strategies and saying, okay, well, relative to widely held expectations as to where a child of this age should be, how does this child compare so that I can tailor curriculum to help this child develop in the areas of greatest need and talk to the parents about what they are. That's data analysis. Data analysis might also be the education manager looking at all of the records, the sum total of every child in the program on the same rating scale and saying, are there areas where the children as a group show a need for additional help and support? And is there anything we can do about that? Can we contribute resources to help? All of that is data analysis. And then finally, we're in that decision-making thing we talked about before. We're going to use data to inform decisions about the program and what we're going to do. So this is key because now we've got the data workflow moving along. We're looking at all these different stages of the process and we're thinking, okay, how are all these pieces going to come together? And at the end, we're going to make a decision about what to do with the data. And if you think about this and connect it to that plan, do, study, act world of quality improvement, this is now where you're saying, all right, I'm going to decide what our next project is, what we're going to do to try to improve the program based on everything else that I've seen. And then there'll be another round of all this information coming through. So the data workflow is really important conceptually because it lets you break down something that your organization is doing into steps that you can look at for things like, are we getting high quality data? And if the answer is no, the next question would be, where is this breaking down? Is it being collected just fine, but it's not being coded right? Or is it collected and coded fine, and it's just not being entered right? And this is something that you'll see a lot of times. It may be that 4 of the 5 stages are fine, but one of them is broken. Sometimes all 5 are broken. You got a lot more work to do, but it gives you a way of approaching this. So when you're hearing in the next several lessons, the stories that are being told about how people use data and how they were able to make positive changes in their program around data, think about this question of the workflow. What was the workflow? They're not going to tell you the whole story every time, but you can get pieces of it and you can look and see how did they figure out where this issue was and what did they do about it? And how did their solutions provide an example of what you might do in your program? And it doesn't matter whether you're the executive director taking this class or a line staff member taking this class. You can think about what that bigger picture looks like, but think about it from your perspective. What's your role in that? And how is it that the examples you're seeing could apply to the kind of work that you do?